phrase, "put on your thinking cap"? Well, in 1985, Edward de Bono took the thinking cap metaphor to a whole new level when he proposed 6 different thinking hats, each of which serve a specific purpose in helping us think through important issues. In sport, big decisions sometimes need to be made about what type of offense or defense the team will run. In some cases, a head coach may just stick with what's worked in the past, regardless of personnel changes. Sort of a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of approach. But as they say, sometimes good can be the enemy of great. And sometimes current ways of doing things, even if they've helped us achieve some level of success in the past, may be holding us back from getting closer to achieving our potential. But if changes are made, a successful team or organization can sometimes get even better. Sport is inherently competitive, and coaches and players are always looking for ways to improve or gain an advantage. Therefore, new ideas are often necessary just to keep from falling behind with the competition. When Bill Walsh took the helm of the San Francisco 49ers in 1979, he had some pretty important decisions to make. The team he inherited was one of the worst in the NFL, and the roster was full of subpar talent with low morale. But rather than whine, complain, make excuses, or give up hope, Bill Walsh tried to figure out a way to get the most out of the hand that he was dealt. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the typical NFL offense mixed smash-mouth runs with the occasional deep pass. But Walsh's running backs weren't particularly impressive, his offensive line was mediocre at best, and his quarterback didn't have the arm strength to throw deep. But his quarterback was reasonably quick. So Walsh devised an offensive system that would take advantage of the abilities that his players did possess. He used formations that spread his receivers wide and created plays that involved spreading quick, short yardage, but high percentage passes across his receiving corps. And the system worked so well that in 1981, the San Francisco 49ers beat the Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 16. So did fans, commentators, and opponents immediately laud Walsh's creative innovations? No. They basically considered the new style of play classless and unsportsmanlike, almost like he had been cheating. But as they say, the proof is in the pudding, and Bill Walsh's teams were the teams to beat during the 1980s. So the other NFL teams had to adapt to the new style of play in order to continue to compete. And that is how Bill Walsh created his West Coast offense, and how he changed the way football was played first at the NFL, then at the college and high school levels. Clearly, Bill Walsh made some great strategic decisions during his first few years at the helm of the San Francisco 49ers. But how did Bill Walsh arrive at these conclusions? And why did it take so long for other NFL coaches to catch up? Some of the NFL coaches may have been satisfied with what had worked reasonably well in the past. Some may have been by nature reluctant to try new things. Or maybe the idea of going away from the combination of smash-mouth runs and Hail Mary passes just didn't feel right. And some may have never thought to be intentional about thinking creatively or thinking of ways to innovate. At any rate, much of the success of the San Francisco 49ers during the 1980s can be attributed to decisions made by its leader, Bill Walsh, who came to be known as the Genius, a nickname that alluded to the idea that he was pretty good at thinking, especially thinking about football. Now, if you think about it, thinking is pretty important. That's what makes us who we are. As René Descartes said, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. We can all think, and just like breathing, Thinking is something we do naturally, even while sleeping. But just because we're thinking doesn't mean we're thinking at our best. And our strategic thinking and decision making can be improved if we're intentional about it. De Bono's 6 thinking hats provides a system of thought that can be used for intrapersonal and interpersonal communication. That is, it can be used to help you think about something important, and it can be used to guide a group as they think about something important. De Bono created the system of thinking to help people and groups organize ideas, impressions, and information by using one mode of thinking at a time. And to make things simple and easy, he even color-coded the system. White is for facts, figures, and objective information. Red is for emotions and feelings. Black is for logical negative thoughts. Yellow is for positive constructive thoughts. Green is for creative thinking and new ideas. And the blue hat controls the other hats and the thinking steps. De Bono likens the 6 thinking hats to the pigments involved in a printing process. A standard printer uses 4 types of ink: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And if you mixed all the colors before the printing, everything would come out as a monotone blur. But when the different colors are printed one by one, you can end up with a brilliant full-colored image. Likewise, if you use each of the first 5 thinking hats, facts, emotions, negative, positives, and creative, to create a map, then you can use the blue hat to come up with the best course of action. So let's think about how the thinking hats might help a coaching staff come up with an offensive system at the beginning of a season. De Bono recommends using the thinking hats in a particular order. First, by using the white hat to gather pure facts and information about the subject. Group members might contribute thoughts like, well, the spread offense has been used by the league champions 7 out of the last 8 years, or the wishbone has not been used by a team with a winning record in the past 5 seasons, or we have 26 players on our offensive roster who have experience with the Wildcat. Each of these are empirical and verifiable facts that are completely objective and completely free of subjective value judgment. But to be clear, the wearer of the white hat should indicate whether the fact has been completely verified or if it is to be taken on good authority. Second, the red hats are used to gather feelings, whether they be clear emotions like fear or excitement, or less clear senses like a hunch or a gut feeling. Group members might contribute things like, I'm really excited about the speed we have coming back this year, or I feel like we could do great things with the I formation, or I just kind of feel sketchy about trying the spread offense in our league. While the red hats are in use, contributors don't need to defend or justify their feelings, and group members are not allowed to criticize the feelings that are shared, but they can ask for clarification or further thinking from the red hat wearer in order to explore why the person might feel that way. Third, black hats are used to gather judgments and reasons why some ideas might not work, or why a course of action is maybe too risky or dangerous to pursue. Group members might contribute things like, we just don't have the talent to operate out of the shotgun, or there is no way we can teach the spread offense with only 4 weeks of preseason practice to work with. Sometimes group members might contribute black hat thoughts out of genuine concern or just to play the role of devil's advocate. But black hat contributions should be given and received as a form of information rather than provocation or argument. Fourth, the yellow hats are used to gather optimistic thoughts, constructive ideas, and to point out opportunities. The yellow hat is the opposite of the black hat. The yellow hat wearer looks for reasons why something will succeed. And yellow hat thinking might point out possibilities that could lead to positive outcomes or suggest a specific course of action that could be pursued. Fifth, green hats are used to gather creative ideas, no matter how unusual or seemingly improbable or impossible they may seem. The green hat wearer is searching for alternative solutions to existing or future problems, even if the current solutions are working well. Green hat wearers often play off of each other. One group member might contribute something like, maybe we could operate entirely out of the shotgun. And another group member might add, yes, and this might be a way to disguise our wildcat on short yardage third downs. Green hat thinking is where innovation comes from. Bill Walsh engaged in green hat-like thinking when he created the West Coast offense, because he developed a different way to do a familiar thing with the personnel available to him. And Bill Walsh was also involved in another important offensive innovation, but by accident, when while watching film in Cincinnati of a player who lined up wrong for a play, then moved into the correct position before the snap. In the film room, his teammates laughed at him, but Paul Brown and Bill Walsh noticed that the pre-snap motion confused the defense. So rather than embarrass or punish the player for the mistake, they decided to implement it as a strategy in the next game. That's where having a player in motion pre-snap came from. And it's used by quarterbacks to help them identify defensive formations. So look for it just before you hear Peyton Manning yell, Omaha. Finally, the blue hat is the hat that controls the other hats. So this is the hat that only one person in the group wears during a formal meeting. The head coach, chairman, or group leader who wears the blue hat acts like an orchestra conductor, calling upon the group or members within the group to give their best white, red, black, yellow, or green hat contributions. At the beginning of the meeting or discussion, the blue hat wearer tells the group what sort of outcome they're looking for and explains what problem they're trying to solve. In the case of a head coach at the outset of a season, the blue hat wearer might tell the group that the purpose is to decide on an offensive system that would maximize the chances that they will win the league championship that year. And then the blue hat wearer would solicit white hat contributions, then red hat contributions, then black hat contributions, then yellow hat contributions, and then green hat contributions. And when necessary, the blue hat wearer might ask specific members of the group to contribute, or ask the group to go back to the white hat for a moment, or give their best black hat thoughts, or give me your best green hat ideas. Once all of the white, red, black, yellow, and green information is out there, the blue hat is used to chart a course based on the information that has been gathered. In some cases, the decision may be obvious by looking at the map that's been created. As General George Patton said, every decision is easy if you have all of the information. But it's important that the leader of the group wear the blue hat. Involving assistants or players in decision-making processes can be beneficial, but somebody needs to make the ultimate decision. When John Wooden was coaching at UCLA, he wanted his assistant coaches to wear each of the thinking hats during meetings. And he expected his assistants to speak freely behind closed doors. But in public, he had no tolerance for dissent or having his decisions second-guessed to members of the media. After reading the 6 thinking hats, I've used the system to think through some important decisions, to help me communicate with myself, if you will. But the tool can be even more helpful as a guide for groups as they think through important issues. Now, I've been in academia for a while, And I've seen really well-educated people bring their best ideas to a meeting, only to leave the room with nothing but hurt feelings after hours and hours of talking. In most groups, you seem to always have at least one gas pedal person who wants to get things done. And you always seem to have at least one brake pedal person who seems intent on coming up with an infinite list of reasons why you shouldn't even start. And sometimes you have a steering wheel person who wants to turn in a new direction every meeting, and a transmission person who wants to shift into reverse and just go back to the comfort of the way things used to be. Diversity of thinking can be useful in groups to an extent if it is organized and constructive. But no group can ever move forward if its decision makers or influential members are intent on pressing the brake pedal continuously, turning every which way, or trying to go backwards. An organization like a car simply cannot move forward when the brakes are applied. But a brake pedal person can help the group remember to proceed with caution at times. However, a brake pedal person is never going to be a great choice for leader of the group. And that is because pessimists and visionaries are mutually exclusive. Like Nelson Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. The steering wheel person can help a group remember to make sure that they're headed in the right direction before they go too far down the road, but the group leader must focus on the horizon rather than continually search for shortcuts. That said, the fact remains that most groups include gas pedal people, brake pedal people, steering wheel people, and transmission people. The 6 thinking hats allows everyone to be heard. And that is why the 6 thinking hats are so useful, because it helps make use of the diversity of thought within the group without wasting time or harming relationships with nasty argument, or ending a meeting without a satisfactory resolution because the group has reached an impasse. The 6 thinking hats also allow people to think differently than their natural or habitual way of thinking. For habitual pessimists, they may find it useful to look on the bright side of life once in a while. For black and white logical thinkers, they might benefit from intentionally trying to be innovative or creative in looking for solutions to familiar problems. I know Bill Walsh didn't actually use the 6 thinking hats method to develop the West Coast offense. Walsh took the helm of the 49ers in 1979, and Edward Bono wrote his book in 1985. But the genius described in his book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, why and how he developed the West Coast offense, and his description of the thinking process reminded me of De Bono's 6 thinking hats system. So if you want to think better, or help a group make better decisions, or just have shorter meetings with less awkward moments, you might give the 6 thinking hats a try. It's a pretty good way to facilitate communication, prevent interpersonal conflicts, and perhaps most importantly, inspire innovation.